Welcome to EdTech Mondays Nigeria, brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation in partnership with Co-Creation Hub Limited. EdTech Mondays is a platform to facilitate critical conversations on the use of technology for teaching and learning by bringing together key stakeholders, including policymakers, EdTech entrepreneurs, teachers, and of course, parents. Thank you so much today for joining us on this episode of the show. Our topic for today is EdTech for the future of work. By 2035, Nigeria would have contributed about 40% to the estimated 375 million African youths who were touted at that time to be the largest workforce in the world. To get this percentage of young Nigerians ready for the future of work, which is largely digital, education plays an important role in the acquisition of relevant digital skills. EdTech platforms in Nigeria, like in most African countries, are experiencing a boost and patronage due to the sweeping revolution in telecommunications that is working to improve the ease of access to smartphones and thus supporting remote learning and access to open educational resources which could improve the skills of youths in Nigeria. We would love to hear from you, our listeners. How can EdTech support Nigerian youths for the future of work? Do join our Telegram channel, EdTech Mondays Nigeria, or you can also send us a text or WhatsApp message on 0703 165 0809. I'll take the number again, 0703 165 0809. Please let us know what you think about how EdTech can support Nigerian youths for the future of work. Today on EdTech Mondays, our panelists are ready to discuss EdTech for the future of work. So allow me to introduce in no particular order our first panelist, Precious Ajoonu, who is the head Youth Engagement and Learning at Jobberman Nigeria. She leads the program implementation efforts of the MasterCard Foundation Young Africa Works at Jobberman Nigeria, which aims to upskill 5 million young people and place 3 million of them in dignified work in 5 years between the years 2020 and 2024. Precious is an education technology, change management, curriculum design, and development knowledge expert. She's also the creator of the globally acclaimed Jobberman Soft Skills curriculum, which is available on Coursera and other learning management platforms. Precious, we're so delighted to have you with us today. Welcome.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. Our next panelist is Ukinedo Dare, who is the Managing Director of the Edo State Skills Development Agency, which also oversees the Edo Jobs initiatives. She coordinates efforts and implements programs to fulfill the promise of Mr. Godwin Obaseki, the Executive Governor of Edo State, which is to create 200,000 jobs in 4 years. With her team, Uki implements innovative projects to create the demand for and provide the supply of highly skilled talent in Edo State. Over 180,000 youths have benefited from the state government's job creation initiatives. Hello, Uki. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and to see everyone.
What a delight. And our third panelist is Adeboye Adeguki. Adegoke is a senior program manager at Paradigm Initiative, which is a pan-African social enterprise working on digital inclusion and digital rights advocacy to promote better public policy leading to internet freedom in Central, East, Southern, and West Africa, where he works at the intersection between technology and human rights, leading strategic advocacy engagements, research, and capacity building programs. He's an alumnus of the African School on Internet Governance and other notable institutions. Boye is currently providing policy analysis expertise, analyzing national policies, and advisory notes for national government at Tony Blair Institute. Boye, we are honored to have you here with us today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So a 2020 survey by eLearning Africa on the effect of COVID-19 on education in Africa and its implication for the use of technology was carried out, and 44% of respondents mentioned a lack of access to effective infrastructure and technology. 49% said lack of affordable and accessible electricity and connectivity. 30% said a lack of access to appropriate ICT devices is a problem. 11% said the lack of access to learning materials and appropriate curriculum, while a whopping 71% mentioned lack of access to capacity building, personal development, and training are the main obstacles facing learners in Africa today. So Adeboye, please, let me ask you, how do we use the lessons from remote learning during COVID to reach out to all school youth and increase access to skills and tertiary learning training, which is severely lacking in Nigeria?
Thanks very much for having me, and thank you for the question. So I think COVID-19 taught the world a very big lesson regarding the importance of access. And, and taking away from that lesson and, using it to then improve systems and promote the objective of education, which was basically impacted by the pandemic and the fact that people had to stay away from public places, etc. I think one important thing that we have to take away from that is to institutionalize some of the things, some of the ways in which we responded to the reality of COVID-19. So, for example, during COVID-19, many schools could not, in fact, practically all schools were shut down because government restricted movement. And a few schools, probably that, schools that could be afforded by the upper middle class and the elites, they continue to teach their students through, remote learning, through, virtual learning, etc. But then what about the children of the poor who cannot afford a device, who cannot afford a laptop, who cannot afford internet access? For example, at Paradigm Initiative, we were providing capacity building training, ICT training for young underserved Nigerians. And when COVID happened, we tried to take that online. We even offer to provide, to support students or learners with, internet access by paying for their data and all of that. But many of them will tell you that I don't even have a smartphone. I don't even have a device. So even if you give me money to buy data, I like the device to use that data on and all of that.
Exactly.
So for me, I think the story has been told. The story has told itself. It is now left for us to capitalize on that lesson. I think the importance of access has been clearly demonstrated. Advocates have been working, people have been, promoting the need for the adoption of technology, the need to promote access, to the length and breadth of the country. So what I think needs to happen, that we now need to institutionalize that lesson as a part, in fact, necessarily as a national policy, as a state policy. When I say national state policy, I mean the adoption by government to now make it a priority to ensure that there is access at the length and breadth of our country. If we look at some of the policy responses of government during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a lot of drive to promote broadband access because government saw it themselves that this is required, this is necessary. And because of that, through the Ministry of Communication and Digital Technology, I'm not sure if I got it right, the name right now, but the Minister of Communication was working a lot with stakeholders at that time to say that let us remove the bottleneck to access. What are the things that are, impacting the spread of internet access across the length and breadth of Nigeria? One of the things that was identified at that point in time was what was called the right of way. The right of way was a major impediment because every state, every local government want to tax, internet service providers for laying cables, across their country. So I would say that we need to double down on those efforts because as at that time, a few states responded and removed the right of way to ensure access across the letter. But now that it seems COVID is going, everybody seems to be relaxed again. We need to push that, right, and make sure that we promote access and lastly, to make sure that access is seen as a critical infrastructure. The same way we see water, the same way we see electricity.
And roads.
Exactly. I know that my time is up, so let me keep quiet.
Thank you, Boye. Thank you so much. It should be seen as a priority, just like we see water, roads, and more. Thank you. So Precious, please. What is the role of EdTech in bringing about national and international equity with regards to closing the skills gap and preparing today's youth for the future of work?
Thank you so much for that question. It's a very good one. And I'm going to use the Jobberman example. I remember when COVID happened and we had to have the lockdown, and in March, we had to work from home, for example. In many ways, it accelerated learning for us. So we had to be very agile, move online, and then we're able to have access. Our program covers youths in Lagos, Kano, and Kaduna. And I mean, naturally, if you have to have one instructor in front of a classroom teaching 5 million young people, we'll probably do that, complete that course. I don't think I'll have enough lifetime to be able to go through that. But when you put technology in the mix, right, you're able to accelerate faster, you're able to scale faster, and then just to the previous speaker's point on access, you're able to create access to more people. And then talking specifically about equity, because our program is focused 70% on women, right? And then of course, women in the North. And these are people that typically are sort of excluded, right? They usually fall within the excluded demographic. So this has forced us to adopt a blended learning methodology, and I'll explain what I mean. If you want to access this course, right, you are able to choose. So for example, if you have high internet access, go learn on Coursera. If you do not, there are options for you. So, you have the Telegram learning option, very low tech, and we're piloting a WhatsApp bot, right? So on WhatsApp, you have a bot there talking to you and talking soft skills training. And think about how many people have, have WhatsApp, but are not able to get on Google, for example, and there we're able to. So we continue to innovate. We continue to innovate to be able to reach underserved communities. And it's super exciting what you learn through tech. So let me give an example. We have our course transcribed to Hausa. I was in Kano the other day, and a lady who needed a translator, because of course she couldn't speak English, was telling me how impactful the course was. She recognized me from the videos. There is no way without tech I would have been able to reach that lady in Nasarawa local government in Kano. It would be impossible. But sitting in my home in Lagos, creating something in the studio, you're able to reach. So think about the possibilities that exist with EdTech. I say it's legion. I agree with him. Create the access, remove the barriers, and let's get this knowledge everywhere to everyone who needs them. Yeah.
Amazing. EdTech will be that bridge builder. Tech, the bridge builder, to take it to everybody, millions of people in a flash, make it quicker and faster. Thank you so much, Precious. In 2013, the former governor of Osun State stole the headlines all over the country with the laudable distribution of the tablet of knowledge, also called, let me try and pronounce it, Omoimo, which was an e-learning device aimed at equipping students in senior secondary school classes 1 to 3 with learning resources, virtual learning environments, e-library, and test zone, as well as some development games to accelerate their learning and performance in certificate examination. Unfortunately, a few years down the line, many began to describe the project as a failure, blaming it on poor implementation and sustainable partnerships, amongst others. Okay, you work with government. What lessons do you think governments, EdTech companies, and educational institutions can learn from this case in their effort to harness the power of EdTech for the future of work?
Thank you very much. And I guess this question is probably very good for me because we have a fantastic case study in Edo State where technology is being used for basic education to revamp our basic education. And what the SUBEB agency implemented through Edo Best has given a lot of insights into how this could possibly have worked better, the example that you gave. So first things first is that Governor Obaseki came in and decided that, look, he needs to reenact primary school education completely and totally. At that time, we had kids in primary 6 who could not read because obviously different levels of education were being given at different schools. If you're in a rural school, it's different, almost like what Precious just talked about. If you're in a particular location, you don't have as much access, you're not getting the same thing. So the state government launched Edo Best, where that started first of all and focused on the teachers. So capacity building for the teachers. If I mean, I'm sure that they had fantastic ideas in the example that you just gave, but even from learnings on all our other programs like at Edo Innovates and everything else, the truth of the matter is that on the day, like I always tell my team, whether we set up a new innovation hub or we give people devices, that day when you have the bells and the whistles and everything is equal to no work done. Yes, you have bought devices, you have created a hub, you have done all these things, but the work starts after that day. And that work involves capacity building. You know, using technology is a mindset. We just finished doing at Edo Innovation Hub, we just finished carrying out computer appreciation training for staff of one of the ministries in the state. And yesterday was a graduation, and when I was interacting with them, the feedback I got from everybody was the same. Okay, they came to learn how to use the computer, but they're saying, look, even just learning how to use this computer has changed the way I think. It has changed the way I process information. It has changed. A particular man said it has changed the way he sees the whole world. So of course, if you just give that person a device and you don't take him through that process, you're not really going to see the change you want. So Edo Best, which was implemented by CcHUB, had a lot of emphasis on working with the teachers. And what did the devices do? It's not just about having a device. The devices hit the biggest places where there were challenges. So every school, every teacher had the same lesson notes for the day. You know exactly what you should be teaching your children in a day. You know what you should be, the questions you should be asking, you know what time to go from one subject to the other. And that has had serious impact. In fact, Edo Best is now the model that World Bank is using to work with other states in Nigeria. So I think the lessons are, first of all, focus on human capital development. People should know how to use the technology. The second lesson is that when you give out these devices to people, then don't leave the students out of the equation. Because during COVID, the state had to move to Edo Best online. So students in government primary schools were learning online, meaning that if they have never used the device before, they will not even be able to learn outside the classroom. And one major thing is also that I know this might be all the way up there, but I think that state governments in Nigeria should begin to focus a lot on how they can drive investment in production of devices locally. Because back to Edo Best Online, only the students whose parents could afford whatever kind of small phone, at least they have some kind of phone. But if devices could be produced locally, they're more affordable, and that definitely improves access. By the time all the broadband access is everywhere, you still need a device to be able to access it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Implementation, capacity development. I think this is what EdTech Mondays is all about. We continue to preach the message of capacity development, then EdTech will work. Thank you so much. Philips Consulting in 2014 said the purpose of tertiary education as preparation for the job market and sustainable employment by enhancing technical and supportive skills for the field of work. I'll take that again, please, for recording purposes. Philips Consulting from 2014 sees the purpose of tertiary education as preparation for the job market and sustainable employment by enhancing technical and supportive skills for the field of work. However, other studies stated that products of Nigerian universities are unemployable, half-baked, no too much theory, little practical content, of dubious quality, deficient in knowledge, skills, and attitude. Precious, please. What type of EdTech collaborations and partnerships are required to increase access for young people in Nigeria to skills and attitudinal educational training?
Wow, what a report, right? And yeah, but there's hope, right? I mean, when you know what the problem is, then you can fix it. We definitely need to think global now. I often say this, yes, we live in a very globalized world with a global talent pool. There is a world where you sit in Lagos, you sit in Benin or wherever with internet access again. You're working for a company, you know, in Canada, in the US, etc.
In Korea.
So if we think, or Korea, for example, or China, and if you think global, the next question becomes, how do we raise talent that are globally competitive? So it's two things. It's one, your technical skills, you know, get your degree in engineering, in, you know, full stack developer, etc. Go ahead and do that. But you also need soft skills, extremely important, right? You want to be able to communicate across cultures. There are certain cultures in the world where this means yes. What does it mean to you? It means absolutely. So this means yes, right? So that sort of knowledge needs to be available to all. We need to teach it. We need to preach it. And this is where EdTech becomes very interesting. There is such a thing called Google University. I say that all the time. There's such a thing called YouTube University. Ever heard of it? So you can learn literally anything that you want to learn. I mean, of course, I mean, I'm going to put this plug here. There's the free Jobberman soft skills training if you want to learn. So there's so many different ways that you must upskill. But I tell young talents, if you're thinking about your career, you must think global. You must think about opportunities beyond the borders of, you know, Nigeria. You must think about opportunities beyond, you know, the African borders. You must think about being globally competitive. And then once you have that thinking, right, the second natural question becomes how? How? I used to lead training sessions across Africa, right? And to be able to do that, I had to upskill myself, right? I had to learn, you know, things around communicating across cultures. I've talked about that. Time management, personal effectiveness, etc. So first, decide that you want to be global talent. And then secondly, how? And the answer to how are some of those universities, you know, that I just mentioned. I don't know if Google knows that they're a university, but I'm telling them now. And it's for, you know, it's for young people to know that as well, that these skills are available, and then you go get them. And of course, practice. But the world as we know it has changed forever. I mean, I've relocated to Benin. That's how cool it is. And I work from here all over the world.
So some of the partnerships, if I'm taking away from what you said, we should partner with the affordable, almost free universities available for us from the world. We should also partner with the media. EdTech Mondays is coming across to Nigerians everywhere based on partnerships with the media. So these are some of the collaborations to continue to look forward to. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And the question for Uki and Adeboye, you will split, is how can EdTech organizations ensure that in designing solutions to meet the needs of the future of work, they do not further widen the gap between those in the urban and rural communities, given the way the ravaging infrastructural deficit is in the country? And Adeboye had mentioned those in the upper middle class and those in the rural. How do we ensure that in designing solutions, we close the gap, not widen it?
I will just pick it up from where I think it was Precious who said earlier. You know, give an example of what happened. It was Joyce when you were talking about the Okoimo experience from Osun State. I think one of the important things that we need to do is for us to understand, not assume that we understand the problem. I mean, there is a lot of assumption that, oh, once you introduce technology, we are going to solve this problem, we are going to solve this challenge. We have to really understand, because there are peculiarities to the problem. And just as you said, what some of the efforts that we make to foster inclusion, unfortunately, would mean exclusion for other people. And in order to avoid that, we need to carefully understand the problem, analyze the problem, and come up with a solution that is kind of not just bespoke, but a solution that meets everybody at their point of need. So the need, for example, of somebody from the family of a medium income earner or from an elite home is not the same as that guy in a village where they barely have water or or electricity. So for each person, we have to identify what does this person need, what's the critical, what's the most important need of this demographics, what is the most important intervention that can actually, so for some people, some people, even if you give them access and phone today, they don't know what to do with it. So what they need at that level is the capacity building in terms of even knowing how to use a computer or how to use a phone and all of that. For some people, they have the skill, but they don't have the opportunities in terms of having internet access or having the ability, affordability, issues and all of that. So I think that's what we need to do. We need to separate the issues. We must not lump everybody together. So when there is an intervention, for example, let me use this to conclude. If you look at the kind of intervention that Paradigm Initiative does, it's focused on a particular kind of demography, and it is underserved young people in underserved areas. So we are more concerned about those kind of people. So while some people are working in urban communities, we are focused on people who may be in urban communities but who are still underserved, and that's why we create all our offices in underserved areas like Ajoonu in Lagos, like in Aba there is a place called Angba or something, very rural area inside of an urban area. So that is the kind of way we need to think about solution. We are very specific about our intervention. We may not be able to solve all the problem, but let us identify the one that we want to solve and provide the appropriate solution for it.
Thank you very much. Uki?
So I would say that first and foremost, to create solutions that don't widen the gap, one thing I believe very strongly is that whoever you are serving, whoever you are working for, developing solutions for, you must have respect for them. So how do you have respect for them? Get their opinions, let them be part of the solution. Don't sit somewhere and think, oh, I know what they need, let me just do this and give it to them. It might solve something, it might do something, but it will not hit the nail on the head, because like we all say, or like a lot of us have heard, talent is evenly spread out. It's opportunities that are not evenly spread out. So there are people there that can add things that you would have never thought of to your solution. Then also I would say about having different levels of solutions that still plug to the same goal. So I'll give an example with what we do at Edo Jobs. So we have our tech program, which is to connect young people to jobs in tech. Teaching things like data science, software engineering, and all that. But of course, there are people in rural communities who, first of all, have to learn how to use a computer, what it even is. So what we do is that we have rural ICT centers where people can just come and learn how to use Microsoft Word, learn how to use the computer, understand that there's a whole world out there that they can tap into. When you are at the rural ICT centers, we're also setting up rural job centers. Our first job centers opened yesterday. So what happens is that at those centers now, you can now start seeing, oh, there are tech jobs. Oh, wow, I'm interested in this. And then you can now get plugged into Edo Innovate. So Edo Innovate is where you get real into the deep, all the things like graphics design, data science, web development, and software engineering. And there, at Edo Innovate, we're already placing them in freelance jobs, we're placing them in jobs in organizations, and then we now go all the way up to Edo Tech Park. So Edo Tech Park is like the cream of, you know what I mean? Cream de la creme. I mean in terms of quality of skill, but it's open to everybody. And it's just based on how much skill you have. And then they spend 6 months just on software engineering, and they get placed now in international job opportunities. So you see that even at the rural center, you're getting the basic skills, you're getting the exposure, you're understanding that there's so much for you to do. Then you can go to the innovation hub. You can take the courses online or in person. And then at Edo Tech Park, there's accommodation. So it doesn't matter where you are from in the state, you can actually stay there and get fed, get a laptop, learn what you're learning, and then go on to a fantastic career.
I feel like saying we should all clap, but let's clap. Thank you. Thank you for this intervention. You're telling us we have to go step by step and meet people at their points of needs that they have also identified. Our listeners, we would love to hear from you. What are the EdTech for the future of work solutions? What are the solutions that EdTech has for the future of work? Join our Telegram channel, EdTech Mondays Nigeria, or send us a text or WhatsApp message on 0703 165 0809. That is 0703 165 0809. Let us know what you think. I'd like to say a big thank you to our panelists, Precious Ajoonu, Ukinedo, and Adeboye Adeguki. Thank you so much for being here with us. We hope you will come again when we invite you next time. To all our listeners, we look forward to seeing you again or being with you on air again. Same station next month.